Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson podcast. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited about a new series that we are kicking off today. And we're kicking off the Career Clarity series. And today we are focused on purpose aligned career. I need clarity. And this episode is especially for people who are at a career crossroads. You know that you're at a point in your career that it's time for you to make a major decision, whether or not you switch and shift your path, if you decide to remain on the same path, or if you make some slight modifications to what you're doing professionally. And if you stick through to the end, I'm going to actually share a tool with you that is going to be very useful that you can actually use to apply anytime you have any questions about whether or not you're heading in the right direction, if you need to make some minor adjustments, if you're questioning whether or not what you're doing simply needs a different perspective, if there's a change that you need in your industry, if you need a change in your role, your workplace, if you have some areas that are fulfilling and some that are unfulfilling, and you just need assistance on making the decisions and having a tool that you need to make the right decisions, then you'll want to through to the very end from LinkedIn or any other platform. I do invite you to tune in on YouTube on the at Dr. April D. Dobson profile and put your comments there as we are live. So I'll be right back after these special sponsorship messages, and we'll jump right in to Purpose Aligned Career. I need career clarity help. I'm at a career crossroads. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these special sponsorship messages.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.
And if you're interested in the Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Cohort and you want to register for the next cohort, that link is available in the chat on YouTube, and so you can access that on YouTube. And I see that Kelly Grant has already posted. So excited for episode 68. This topic is something so many people need right now. So thank you very much for that comment, Kelly, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Well, we are going to jump right in. As I shared on today, we're talking about purpose-aligned career. I need career clarity. And oftentimes, you can have different points in your career. Points that you're certain that you're aligned properly. You'll have points in your career that you're certain that you're where you need to be and you're doing what you need to do and you're being effective. But sometimes you have those questions that perhaps, maybe I'm not quite aligned or I'm not quite feeling fulfilled. And you might ask yourself the question whether or not you're doing the right thing. So what I encourage you to do, I encourage you to pull out a paper and pen, your iPad, pull up a note if you're on your laptop to start a new note. Whatever your note-taking method is, I do encourage you to do that. We're going to start with some of the 5 signs that your career may be misaligned. So if you're trying to make a decision on whether or not you're aligned or not aligned. Having those key indicators of whether or not you're aligned is where you actually want to start. So I want to talk about those first, because this is going to actually help you to identify whether or not there may be some adjustments or further assessment necessary. Now, of course, anytime you identify that there are some shortfalls, that there are some gaps, that there are some indicators, you want to ensure that you take a moment to do an assessment, right? But we're going to start with the indicators that your career might be misaligned. So if you're experiencing apathy, some of the things that you were interested in doing, you're not quite interested in professionally anymore. You notice that there aren't the same, you don't have the same zeal and desire for what you were doing. You're noticing that you've stopped really being so concerned and caring as much about the type of work that you're doing that you once knew excited you. You want to ensure that if you're feeling the apathy, then you want to stop and take a moment to ask yourself some questions why you're feeling that way. The second key to knowing that you may be experiencing career misalignment is if you're having stagnation. You've got a lack of growth. Maybe you know that at one point your career was excelling, you were growing, you were learning. And so growth isn't always just going into another position and getting promoted. Sometimes a lack of growth is not learning something that's new. If you're in a situation that it's always busy, but you're not advancing, you're not growing, you're not learning, you've hit a ceiling and you don't have any stretch goals, you don't have any new skills that you can attain, there's no way for you to continue to evolve in what you're doing. You don't see a way that you can make a meaningful contribution, then that's another sign. But the most important sign, and the critical one, which we're going to talk about third, is if you are missing purpose. Anytime you are not aligned with purpose, that is a critical sign that you need to make an adjustment. So if you know that there's something that you were created to do, you know that there's something that is greater, this deep desire that you know is what you were created to do, but you are in a position that you are only relying on fulfilling responsibilities in a role, and your purpose is having to take a back seat, but responsibilities that you have are having to take a front seat. And this isn't a temporary thing, but you know that your purpose is in the back seat, your faith is in the back seat, then you want to really take a moment to do some assessments and some deep reflection and prayer. The fourth indicator is unfulfillment. You're doing a lot of things. You might be getting accolades and recognition for what you're doing, but deep down, you know that you're not fulfilled in what you're doing. And then you notice that you also have been feeling exhaustion. And it's not a one-time exhaustion, but you notice that you're feeling an ongoing exhaustion. You've been exhausted for months. Even though you go to bed at a reasonable time, you are waking up feeling a dread of going to your office, you're feeling a dread of doing what you do, then likely you are misaligned. And so if you're misaligned in your career, then you want to take some practical steps that I'm going to give you so that you can gain clarity on what you need to do. So if you haven't started taking notes, I encourage you to pull out the notepad, because we're going to get into the practical steps and a practical tool that you can use for clarity in your career. And so this is an assessment that you can actually use to help you. If you experience any of the signs that I mentioned earlier, then you'll want to start doing this reflection and assessment that you can use in your career. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it on the screen. And if you want to actually receive this tool, then you can actually join the Purpose Today Global mailing list, and we will send you, not only will we send you this tool that you can use to do an assessment for yourself, we'll also send you all of the resources in the Career Clarity series, for the Purpose Aligned Career Clarity series. And that will help you, and you can share it with colleagues, you can share it with friends, family members, anyone who might benefit. So just because you're feeling the signs or you're experiencing the signs that I mentioned earlier, that doesn't mean that you need to go and quit the role that you're in. You want to stop and actually do some inventory, actually reflect, and you want to complete the questions that are listed here. And we'll go through each of these because it's very important for you to ask yourself these 5 questions, because it's going to help you. So the first question that you want to ask yourself, the main question, the big question, is where does the problem lie? So is the problem that you're experiencing with being, experiencing apathy, with not being aligned with purpose, with feeling stagnation, a lack of growth, with there not being an opportunity for you to move forward and progress, and all the other things that I mentioned, having that lack of fulfillment, all these things, you want to start with assessing where the problem lies. What is the causation of the problem? So is the problem the role that you're in? It could be that if there were some adjustments to your role or how you are executing your role, that you might be able to come into alignment, and you might be able to resolve those issues. Is the issue the industry? Is the issue your workplace? Is the issue the direction that your career is in? So you want to think about this question specifically. What do you think is really causing your unhappiness? What is really causing the apathy? What is really causing the sense of unfulfillment? The second thing that you want to actually look at is, what are the things that make you feel fulfilled about where you are in your career? Just because you have a sense of unfulfillment, it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to switch to another role. You could have some areas, and hopefully you all can see this clearly. But if not, like I said, if you wanted to have this sent to you directly, you can complete the short form, and we will send you, my team will send you this tool, and we'll also send you all of the resources in this Career Clarity series. So thank you very much, Russ, for saying that this conversation is already giving you a lot to think about. Thank you so very much for that. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to really evaluate, in this second part, the aspects of what you're doing in your current role that you enjoy. You want to evaluate the aspects that energize you. So that's very important. And while you're doing that, you want to think about the things that are leaving you feeling drained, to see if there's a different approach that you can use for those things, or see if that's something that you can delegate, especially if you are a leader and you have a team, and you can start assessing what their interests are, what they love to do, what brings them joy, and find out about their purpose, and start giving them developmental opportunities and projects that will allow them to continue to develop and do what they enjoy and what they love. So the next thing that you want to think about and you want to assess is, what is it that aligns with your purpose? So you want to think about the values, what you're passionate about, what your strengths are, and whether or not you're using those in your current role, on your current career path, and how those connect to your purpose and what you can actually do more of to do that, and whether or not you can accomplish that in your same role, or if you maybe need to transition to a different role, if you need to apply for other opportunities in your organization. And sometimes you may need to seek opportunities outside your organization. You just have to do that assessment and that deep reflection, right? So the other thing that you want to think about is you want to think about what kind of problems do you want to solve, and who are the types of people who you want to actually help. And when I say that the types of people who you want to help, what are people experiencing that you want to help them solve problems for? Do you want to help parents who are wanting to ensure that their children have an education that allows them to align with the family values? Do you want to ensure that people who are not technology savvy, that they are receive skills and development on how to use different technology platforms, to use computers, to use AI tools? What is it that you want to help people with, and what kind of problems do you want to solve for people, right? And then you want to also think about whether or not you have a strategy for your next career move. And so what are the steps that you have already taken, and what are the steps that you need to take to ensure that you have a plan that will allow you to move forward with intentionality and to be purpose aligned? You don't want to just go from something that you are finding is a challenge into something that is also another challenge and is not purpose aligned. So you want to do this, go through these questions, and you want to do an assessment and be very honest with yourself. You want to be reflective, you want to be introspective, and you want to ensure that you also are, prayerful. I'm a person of faith, and I know that when we are when we seek God in what we're doing, He can guide our path, He can direct our path, and ensure that we have good success in what we're doing. And so I see there's a comment from Banter Show. It says, happy Thursday. Joining. I'm just trying to see, it looks like part of it is cut off. Joining from the beginning tonight. Career clarity is such an important conversation. So thank you so very much for that. And thank you so much for viewing today. And I see Clive has a question, and I'm trying to ensure that your comments and your questions are actually visible to everyone. So thank you, Clive, for asking that question. Who else is currently at a career crossroads? We're going to always come to a point in our career that we're facing a crossroads. Even as entrepreneurs, you're going to come at a point where you're at a crossroads in your business. For people who are in the traditional workforce, you're going to come to a career crossroads. I came to a career crossroads several times in my career. I have many clients who I have helped who have come to a career crossroads. I have students, prior students, when I was teaching career planning and management for over 8 years, who came to a crossroads. Many of them in their career because they were adult learners, and some who came at a crossroads before their career came to a major start because they realized that they were in the wrong degree program. So being at a career crossroads is one thing to recognize that you're there, but it's another thing to actually have a strategy and have the right strategy to know which direction you should actually be taking. And I see Antoine says, what is usually the first sign that someone has become disconnected from their career purpose? Excellent question, Antoine. So one of the first signs that a person is disconnected is usually they start feeling, and this is before they have the epiphany, oh, I'm not aligned with purpose. Typically what happens first when they realize that they're not aligned is they usually start dreading what they're doing. They become apathetic. As I mentioned earlier, that's usually one of the first warning signs. But either of the signs that I listed can be a warning sign. It could be exhaustion, an ongoing exhaustion, even, when you're going to bed at a reasonable hour and it seems that you should be getting adequate rest. Also, that sense of unfulfillment is usually a key indicator too. So these are signs, these are all signs that someone is out of alignment. But sitting down and asking yourself these questions, this is why it's important to reflect on a daily basis, will often allow a person to really examine why they're feeling what they're feeling, why they're dreading going to their office, why they are feeling apathetic, why they feel like they're at a point where they're stagnated. All of these things are very important to assess. And so thank you for asking that question, Antoine, and thank you, Mr. Bradley, for the comment that you're ready to learn tonight. And so thank you so very much for that comment, that you're curious to hear about those 5 signs of career misalignment. Thank you for viewing, and thank you for the engagement. Thank you so much, Russ, for sharing that this conversation is giving you a lot to think about. So Kelly has asked, how can someone tell the difference between simply having a difficult season at work and actually being in the wrong career? That is an excellent question. The way that you're able to distinguish whether or not if it's a difficult season or if you're in the wrong career is often taking the time to stop to think and assess why you are feeling the way that you're feeling, why you're feeling apathetic, why you're feeling the stagnation, why you're feeling the exhaustion. And most people who've been in a role through a full season within the role, and seen and have had an opportunity to see the role in different seasons, you can distinguish whether or not things are different because of something that has changed, or if there's something that has changed within you, right? And one of the things that I want to go back to and for us to highlight is on that list that I shared, the actual questions and looking at the assessment. I want to put that back on the screen so that you all can see it again. When you're going back through the assessment, you want to think about, is there anything in what you're doing that is fulfilling? Is there anything in what you're doing that is purpose aligned, right? So if you find that there's something that you're doing that's fulfilling, there's something that you're doing that's purpose aligned, you're doing something that allows you to answer and address and solve problems for people, make an impact, then usually it's just a difficult season. which category you're in, right? You'll want to assess, are you fulfilling purpose? You'll want to assess, are you feeling fulfilled? You'll want to assess, are you solving the kinds of problems that you want to solve? Are you helping people who are experiencing situations that you want to help them to resolve? So that is what you want to consider when you're making the assessment as to whether or not you are going through maybe a difficult season or whether or not a career shift is required. Now, in addition to the questions and the reflection and the introspection, you want to always pray as well. Sometimes we come to a point that it's time for us to shift. Maybe we remain in the same on the same career path, but maybe it's time for us to grow. Maybe it's time for us to be able to use the gifts and talents and purpose that God has placed on the inside of us to help people at a greater level, right? And so it's great to also speak with a career coach, speak with a mentor, but you also want to be prayerful about what you're doing. I do believe that it's so important to seek God, as Proverbs 3:5 says, to, trust in the Lord with your whole heart, lean not to your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. We have to allow God to direct and lead us in what we're doing, but also having practical approaches that you can use to help you as well. But ultimately, you want to pray and ensure that you're equipped to make the right decisions. So I want to give both sides, for you to use. And if you want the tool that you can use, and if you want all of the resources in the Career Clarity series, then certainly use the link in the chat to complete the short form that you can be included on resources from the Career Clarity series. Now, as we're wrapping up, I see there are I see that there are a few more questions as we are wrapping up. Thank you so very much, Olivia, for sharing that compliment that you really appreciate the focus on practical steps instead of just telling people to follow their passion. Thank you so very much for that, Olivia. Glad that this has been helpful. Now, Rochelle has a question. Can someone be successful on paper but still be completely misaligned with their purpose? Absolutely. You can have what looks like success on paper. You can receive accolades. You can receive recognition and awards, but still be misaligned with purpose. That's why it's important to not ignore many of the signs that are indicators of purpose misalignment. If you're feeling unfulfilled, if you're feeling apathetic. I've mentioned before, back in my Air Force career, I was very successful in my career. I was receiving awards, I was receiving recognition, accolades, but there was something inside that was missing. There were aspects of what I was doing that I really enjoyed, but something just was disconnected. I was not aligned with purpose. And often when a person is not aligned with purpose, they know it. They know that something is missing. And so using the resource that I gave you, the worksheet that you can go through, the tool that you can use to ask those questions, that is going to help you to know whether or not you need to shift roles, if you need to shift career paths altogether, if you might just need a change in industry, but you want to ask those questions and find out whether or not you are experiencing success on paper, if everything on the outside is looking good, but on the inside, you know when there's a disconnect and when you're not aligned. So great question, Rochelle. I appreciate you asking that. And Ariel Herrera says, love how Dr. April is making career clarity feel like something we can actually work toward instead of something we magically discover. Thank you so much for that, Ariel. I do appreciate you sharing that, and I'm glad that it's helpful for you and for those others who are watching. Anita says, what if someone's current career provides financial security, but they feel completely disconnected from their purpose? How should they approach that situation? Anita, that's a great question. I think you still start with the worksheet that I gave you, but then there's another step that you need to do after that. You need to really pray and ask God for clarity and guidance on what your purpose is. If you already know what your purpose is, or if someone already knows what their purpose is, but they know that their current career is disconnected from that, now they need to actually make an assessment. And it's that I can do that's aligned with my purpose. What are the problems that I can solve that are aligned with my purpose? It's part of what is in the tool that I showed you all earlier. And it's not listing jobs, it's actually listing things that you can do that are aligned, the types of problems that you can solve, the people who you can help, right? And looking at the skills that you can use with your purpose, the types of tasks that you want to be doing, the environment that you want. So when you know your purpose, you can know, okay, well, I have a desire to, and I'm just going to throw something out there, right? I have a desire to train people, right? But I don't like being stuck at a desk all day. I don't want to be confined to a desk. Then, you can actually put in all of the, what it is, what your purpose is, the types of problems that you want to solve, the people who you want to help, what you're passionate about. You can put the type of environment that you want, whether you want to work indoors or outdoors, whether you want to be in an office all day, whether or not you want to work at the same place all day, if you want to travel, if you want to work in the same facility, but you want to be able to provide training in different within different segments, right? So some people have training roles that are completely virtual and they sit at their desk and they provide the training virtually, right? Some people provide training and they provide in-person training. Some people provide training and it's hybrid. So it's figuring out all of the things that are essential. You want to figure out what your must-haves are, right? And once you've done that, you can talk with a mentor or a coach and give them the insight. Here's what I have discovered, right? This is my purpose. This is the type of environment that I want to work in. These are the types of problems I want to solve. These are the, people who I want to, the type of people who I want to help, people who are experiencing this, right? And I want to be able to work indoors, or I want to be able to work outdoors, or I want to be able to have I do want to travel, figuring out all of those things. And then you can identify opportunities. Just because you are switching roles, and I'm getting back to your question, I actually have someone who I assisted who thought that he was going to be stuck in Intel because that's what he did for 20 years of his career. And after sitting down, talking with him, I explained to him, no, you don't have to do the same thing just because you've been doing it already. That's one of the greatest misconceptions that professionals have. And so I explained to him, we talked through for him what he wanted to do. He gave me an outline, that he wanted to manage people, processes, and programs. And he gave me some other parameters. And we talked through, and I was able to say, okay, based on all of that, based on what parameters, these are some things that you could potentially do. And he said, well, I don't want to lose my salary. And I said, don't worry. So he was able to So he was able to double his salary, and then within 2 years was able to receive a promotion. And so you don't have to lose your financial security because you're not starting from the beginning. You are actually taking all the expertise, all the skills that you have, and you're building on that. So just because you're making a career shift or a career pivot doesn't mean that you have to start over. So you have a lot of expertise that you can use to leverage. And often when people align with their purpose, they will often double their salary, or it significantly increases beyond what they were making when they align with purpose. So excellent question, Anita. And I think I have one more question that I'm going to get to before we end today. And the question is from John. John says, can your purpose evolve as you grow, or do you believe people usually have one central purpose throughout their lives? I think the core purpose often stays the same, but people typically will learn more about their purpose, or there's a greater impact that they need to make. And so they're able to fulfill purpose at a greater level and have a greater impact. Sometimes people begin to discover more and more about their purpose, because oftentimes the deep desires that we have will be great indicators to our purpose. So we see more how we fulfill purpose evolving, specifically different things that we are assigned to do or that we do at a period in our life evolves, but oftentimes purpose at the core is still there. So great question, John. And I just want to thank all of you for tuning in from around the world. I do appreciate you tuning in for this special first part of our Career Clarity series. We've talked today about purpose aligned career, and we've specifically focused on career clarity. I need career clarity. And so I invite you to continue to follow in the series. And we talked about what you can do when you are at a career crossroads. We also talked about the resource, the tool that you can use. Don't just resign from your role. You want to stop and work through 5 questions that you want to ask yourself. You want to be reflective and introspective to ensure you're not doing anything in haste. And so if you would like this tool to be sent to you, that is available on YouTube. You can utilize the link to complete the short form, and that will ensure that you receive the tool. My team will send that to you. And you will also receive all of the resources in the Purpose Aligned Career Clarity series. So I want to thank you all for tuning in on today. And our next Purpose Aligned Career Clarity series, we have several different segments that we're going to get into over the series, and I hope that you'll tune in to view more of the series and keep asking the amazing questions that you all are asking as we continue in the series. But on next week, we are going to, or on the 1st of September, should I say, it won't be next week, the 1st of September, we'll have episode 71, Purpose Aligned Career, I Need a Mentor. And so if you've ever gone through the process of seeking a mentor and you are at a point where you need additional mentors, it's always good to have 2 or 3 mentors at a minimum. And so if you've ever gone through the process of finding a mentor, it is an important process. It can allow you to have a lot of success in your career. And so I do encourage you to plan to join us for, and all of the viewers, for Purpose Aligned Career Help, I Need a Mentor, as we continue the Career Clarity series. So thank you all for tuning in on today. If I did not have an opportunity to answer your question because I missed it, I try to answer all of them today. But if for whatever reason I missed your question, feel free to send an email to admin@purposetoday.com, and you can subscribe to the Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson podcast by subscribing on YouTube at Dr. April D. Dobson. And you can visit our website, purposetoday.com, or send an email to admin@purposetoday.com. If you have a question that we didn't have an opportunity to answer, I would be happy to respond to that for you. So thank you all for tuning in. There's one final sponsorship message as we close out on today, and I do appreciate all of you for tuning in on today. This has been another episode of the Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson podcast. I appreciate all of you tuning in on today, and I encourage you to be purposeful and stay purposed today and every day. Have an amazing weekend, everyone.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.